So this just speaks to the corruption of the political system in America. This was in 2015 and dealt with and all this and that, but today I don't think it's been dealt with properly, because today we're still passing bills of billions of dollars to fix homelessness and to house the homeless. But in 2015, this guy built tiny homes for the homeless, and they were $1,200, and then the government started seizing them. A bunch of contradictions.
Tens of thousands of people sleep in tent cities crowding the palm-lined boulevards of Los Angeles. But a struggling musician from South LA thought he had a creative temporary fix. He crowdfunded $100,000 and built dozens of solar-powered tiny houses to shelter the homeless. But on the morning city officials were gathering to celebrate their new nearly $2 billion plan to end homelessness, police and garbage crews were descending on the tiny homes, ordered by the city to seize and destroy them.
It's 30 years.
What is behind this?
To be blunt, the city council and the mayor weren't working together on this.
Garcetti introduced a funding proposal in February that would devote nearly $2 billion over the next decade to getting all LA residents off the streets once and for all. But at the time of Garcetti's announcement, dozens of homeless people had already found shelter in the form of solar-powered tiny houses dispersed throughout the neighborhoods of South LA and beyond.
In Los Angeles, a growing movement is having a big impact.
It's an innovative effort to help the homeless.
Giving homes to the homeless.
They were built by a self-described struggling musician named Elvis Summers.
I got involved with building tiny houses because of a woman named Smokey. She's 62 years old, lives in my neighborhood, and as I got to know her, realized that she was sleeping in the dirt, and I decided to build her a tiny house.
In his 20s, Summers was homeless for stretches of time himself. Now the 39-year-old is trying to help his neighbors who have fallen on hard times.
Some other homeless people came by and asked if I could build them one. I didn't have the money, so I figured, let me try one of these crowdfunding things I've seen out there. I mean, it blew my mind. I think I passed 50,000 in the first week. Total, I've raised over 100,000.
Summers has built tiny homes for nearly 40 people, aided by professional contractors and other volunteers who sign up to help through his nonprofit, Starting Human.
If you do the math, I mean, I did the math a while ago, but if you do the math, 1,200 times 60,000 people, that's what? Millions? And you could home them, and there would be zero homeless. But in this video, as you can see, they passed a $1.2 billion deal back then they passed another one, and then now they just passed a $3 billion deal this past year. So it's like $10 billion in total when they could have already solved it. But they don't want to solve it, as you're going to learn in this video.
The house costs roughly $1,200 for materials.
The houses I build have carpet, 2 windows, a steel reinforced door, smoke detector. It's got a solar panel on the roof, powers 2 light bulbs, and the battery pack has a USB port on it to charge your cell phone, which is huge. An address, American flag.
Summers also equips each of the 6 by 10 foot houses with a camping toilet and even window alarms. He says they were never meant to be a permanent solution, but unlike sleeping on the sidewalk or in a tent, his tiny houses provide the secure foundation residents need to improve their lives.
The tiny houses provide immediate shelter. The houses I build are very sturdy and safe. People can lock their stuff up and know that when they come back from their drug treatment program or a court or finding a job all day, that their stuff is where they left it.
I got my resumes, my shower stuff. Want to not be homeless. Want to order pizza to my own home. I want a DVD player, man.
He's here to promote, and he's also here to keep up with propaganda.
But as Summers was building houses, anger in the community over growing street homelessness was reaching a boiling point early this year.
These homes were nothing more than a detriment to mine and my neighbors' homes, families, and children. And they created a sense of terror in the residents.
Nestled within dour tent shantytowns, Summers' tiny houses became brightly colored targets for residents who want the homeless out of their backyards.
They had the children walking in the middle of the street and not on the curbside when they're going over the overpasses.
Most of Summers' tiny houses were placed on private land that's been donated to the project, such as a parking lot outside a convenience store and a church in Compton. A handful replaced the tents that have proliferated on freeway overpasses.
They're not right in front of a business, they're not in front of somebody's house, and the sidewalks are extra wide. So, it seemed, as far as public places, the safest, best place to be until I could get land and then take them and put them on property, building a small community.
but LA viewed the houses as a nuisance. In February, the city council amended a sweeps ordinance to allow the tiny houses to be seized without prior notice. On the morning of the 9th, police and garbage trucks descended, towing 3 of the houses to a Bureau of Sanitation lot for disposal.
My phone just blows up by everybody on 42nd Street, just freaking out. Like, they're throwing us out of the houses. They're telling us they're taking them. Like, what do we do? I mean, they wouldn't let them get their clothes or their medications. They threw them out, left them on the sidewalk. I pleaded with them. I was like, okay, well, look, they have wheel locks on them. Let me unlock the wheels at least, you know, so you don't break them. No, they refused. They just wanted to take them and destroy them.
Summers managed to move 8 of the threatened houses into storage before they were confiscated, but their residents had nowhere to go.
I had to evict 2 veterans who paid their ticket. They shouldn't be homeless, period. There needs to be some respect.
Our community was so negatively impacted by these structures that many of us come together to get them removed. We called Councilman Price's office because we needed him to do something about it.
I don't think...
They say it's unsafe for them to be on the sidewalk. Was it unsafe for your children when they were on the sidewalk, not in a box, in a closed door? Was it safe when they were doing the drugs on the street or laying on the street, dying on the street? Or was it safer for them to be in a house? And it's not in front of your children and stuff. Listen to these people.
Houses, they chose to do it at the exact same time that the council and the mayor were at City Hall unveiling the mayor's new homeless $1.87 billion plan.
This is an important policy statement, and I think it's going to provide us with a roadmap in a variety of areas. We are beginning to make a difference, and a difference that is long overdue. We've identified some action items and working closely with the county, and so we're working really in collaboration in ways that we haven't before. We have identified a need to come up with some funds, a specific number of some funding for a prolonged period of time.
Everything that they have been doing, and doesn't work. It's just years of circles and bureaucratic holds and wait times and
Notice they just show up and start taking it, and it just so happened to be on the same day that they passed the bill.
Like, I would like them to care. 10, 20, 30, 40 years, I mean, where's all the housing?
Mayor Garcetti's plan focuses on permanent supportive housing, aiming to build 10,000 units for homeless families over the next decade.
Trying to come up with some solutions. We're looking at letting people stay in parking lots, for example. We have people that are in vehicles to park in parking lots. Perhaps that could be a good location for tents.
I'm pretty sure I cut it out. All throughout the 40-minute video, original video, the guy's like bashing the idea of housing the homeless in these cheap things that he calls them in a box. I don't even call them a house, I call it a box. And then he's like, he just has this whole attitude throughout the whole interview. Every time it goes to him, it's something negative, and it's like, we're not going to do this because they're on the street and blah, 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 and this and that. It's like, dude, but they were on the street before. But then he contradicts himself. He says, after talking about the bill that's going to get passed, he says, are looking at solutions currently. We got the funding secured. We're looking at solutions and we're thinking it over. Perhaps sleeping in a vehicle in the parking lot. Posting up in the tent in the parking lot. What's wrong with the box then? You confiscated the boxes that were working just fine, and there was a solution. And it wouldn't cost $2 billion, let alone $10 billion you spent over the 2010s decade. So it's clear corruption. That money is just going to the politicians, probably. That's why there's always like 10 of them standing around when they go to announce something at the podium. There's like 10 people standing around. Like, yeah, we need to do this. They all split that money, probably.
For other types of temporary shelters.
In May, following national media attention, Los Angeles returned the tiny houses it had seized, with their solar power systems missing, on the condition that Summers placed them only on private property. As for Mayor Garcetti and the city council, they scored a success on the November ballot as LA voters approved a $1.2 billion bond measure to partially fund new permanent housing construction, exactly a